Mr. President, I want to join my colleagues here on the importance of the VAWA reauthorization. And in particular, I want to thank Senator Ernst for her months of hard work that she has put into this bill that we are introducing today. I'm a proud co-sponsor of that bill. But you saw in her remarks earlier her passion, her energy, her focus on rural America, which is very important to me in my great state of Alaska. And I am hopeful, as all of my colleagues here, including our friend from California, Senator Feinstein, that we, the Senate, are going to get to a place where we can have a bipartisan bill that is going to reauthorize VAWA. This is hugely important for America, and it's hugely important for Alaska. You know, Mr. President, I come down on the floor every week and I talk about someone that's doing something great in my state. I like to brag about the great state of Alaska. It's an amazing place. But I will tell you, there's one area where we're not so amazing. My state, unfortunately, has the highest rates of domestic violence and sexual assault of any state in America. It is horrendous. The numbers, the victims, the carnage that this leaves in Alaska and throughout our country is something we should be able to come together and fix. And we can do this, Mr. President. We can do this. I just want to talk about a provision in Senator Ernst's bill that is something that I've been working on with her, but importantly with many senators, including a lot of my Democratic colleagues. It's Title 12 of the bill. It's called the Choose Respect title. This is a series of bills that I have introduced with Senators Gillibrand, Senators Harris, Senators Kuhn, my Democratic colleagues, and it is focused on trying to change the culture and get more legal resources to victims, to survivors. Why is that so important, Mr. President? When you look at the studies that show what is the best way for a survivor to break out of the cycle of violence that they often find themselves in, one of the answers is to get them an attorney. It empowers them. It enables them to use the justice system to their advantage. And yet, here's the problem, Mr. President. When you look at literally on a daily basis, the lack of legal representation for victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault is endemic across the country, endemic. So a number of the elements of this bill, particularly under the Choose Respect title, are going to try and change this. Last year, we had legislation that I authored that was passed into law, signed by the President, called the POWER Act. And that was about getting more legal resources for survivors. It was a good start, but it doesn't do enough. This year in this bill, again, a bill that I co-sponsored earlier with Senator Harris from California, is that it focuses on this issue. Think about this. If you have an accused abuser, let's say an accused rapist, and there's an indictment under the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, that perpetrator gets a right to counsel, okay? That's our Constitution. That's fine. What does the victim get? What does the survivor get? Right now, nothing. Nothing. And far too often, that victim goes without any legal representation. And that is the beginning, often, of a cycle that they fall into. So one of the provisions of this would be through state domestic violence councils that the federal government would be helping to ensure a goal that once there is an indictment of a crime of violence, then the victim should also get an attorney. So, Mr. President, these are just some of the elements of this bill. Senator Gillibrand and I have legislation that's part of this called the Choose Respect Act, which would have a public advocacy program to try to get young men in particular to start changing our culture. It's not just a problem in Alaska. This is a problem throughout the country. So there are many things in this bill that are very bipartisan, and I certainly am committed to work with Senator Cornyn, Senator Hoeven, Senator Blackburn, Senator Feinstein, and Senator Ernst to get to the compromises we need to make in the Senate to pass this bill. That's what we want to have done. That's why we're all here on the floor talking about this passionately. I think we can do it because it's too important to miss this opportunity to pass legislation that's going to help some of the most vulnerable people in our country and in my state, and I'm certainly committed to working with everybody here to make it happen. I yield the floor.